Hey there, Vanagon addicts. It's Ken Wilford here at Vanagon. So it's been a couple of days since we last talked. I was getting my coolant system put back together on our Carat Vanagon we've been restoring, and of course we ran into a snag. So I had put all the hoses on that I was going to replace. Went to do my pressure test again, and I was hearing a hissing noise. So I was worried about this. I'm like, what is this noise? It's coming from the head gasket area. Thankfully it wound up being this old thermostat housing. Now this engine supposedly is rebuilt and not that old, but people were putting back used parts onto it. These thermostat housings is a prime example of something that you would always want to replace, especially if you're doing head gaskets, doing a new engine. You don't want to cheap out on stuff, guys, and these are not that expensive. So I wound up having a leak coming from right here where the two upper and lower sections come together. The cover, I thought, well, I'll just take the bolts out and reseal it. The previous owner had a brand new thermostat sitting in the car, so I was actually thinking about doing that. But then the bolts, two of them were frozen to the point where you try to loosen them and this bottom boss thing that it screws into is just spinning and it won't come out. So I have to replace the entire thermostat housing. I'm kind of glad that I did, because you can see inside here where this intersection that's supposed to hold this O-ring, it's actually crumbling to pieces a little bit. I'm not totally sure why that is, but it's probably just age and things. So got this bad boy off. I just wanted to kind of show it to you real quick so you can kind of see some failure modes on here. The number one failure mode is this top section not holding enough tension to keep the air from leaking out in this little piece between the two. You got this piece here in here crumbling. Sometimes you'll see this part melted because the engine overheated. That's not a good sign, okay? The number one failure mode, which this one is not displaying, is right here at the bottom. This boss will actually has two steel bosses here so when you tighten it up, you're tightening your screw against steel, and then this steel boss here will start rusting. It'll crack under here, and then you'll have a leak like right underneath of this area. Okay, so this one, initially I wasn't going to replace it because it doesn't really look that bad, but it wound up being bad. So I took it off, and it came off pretty easy. You got these two Allen head bolts. That's what holds it on. They can be a little tricky because the heads get rusty on the inside, but we got them off without too much of a hassle. You can see our sensors here. Again, this sensor really doesn't look that old. You can see the old thermostat in there if you look in there. So we're going to be replacing it with this brand new unit I've got here. It's from JP Group. Okay, I got some new hardware that I had sitting around because hardware is something that just, you waste so much time. I got two new bolts for it. I've got 4 new bolts here for the top, and I was just going to show you real quick, the thermostat. I can take this off so you can see this thermostat in here. Nothing super exciting. It looks like a thermostat. Amazing how it looks just like that. Let me take this cover off here. So I assemble these before putting them on the car. It's just way easier. You can see the thermostat in here. I usually just orient this cross piece so it lines up with this. I don't really think it actually matters one way or the other. And there's an O-ring that sits on the top of it. I usually put just a really thin coating of like this Permatex blue on here. This stuff, okay, sensor safe. Put that on there. Put your screws in and tighten it down until it's flat. Now, something that you don't really see that well probably in this picture, but this section here, the cap, okay, it's actually curved, okay. That way when you tighten the 4 corners down, it puts a strain on, or it puts a little pressure on holding the gasket. So a lot of times that's why the old ones fail, is just over time the plastic takes a set. So instead of having that down force anymore and clamping force, it loses it. Okay, it loses it. So, you know, just a little side note there, that you're basically going to be replacing these thermostat covers probably once every, I don't know, usually every time I do a head gasket, I'll just replace them, put a new thermostat in. When you do a new motor, I definitely, you know, encourage you to replace this stuff as well. And then you should, you know, have a ground zero. So I'm going to wind up replacing probably all of the coolant hoses on this car. Which is not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's just kind of a pain. I was hoping to get this done and get this car on the road. Every time I think I'm getting close, you know, I run into another little snag. But nothing too bad. It's just the process of restoration. You know, when we first started working on these vans like 20-something years ago, people would come in and they're like, hey, I use this every day. It's my daily driver. I need it to get back on the road right away. And so we would do repairs. Now we're doing, or for probably like the last 5 to 10 years, we've been doing restorations, because you can't just patch this. If you patch one thing, you get another problem in another area. And it just makes way more sense if you're going to use the car, like maybe you're doing van life, or you're doing just going on trips or whatever. You want it to be reliable. So you really want to think about it more as restoring an entire system. So I'm working on the cooling system. I'm going to restore that. I'm going to put all new hoses on and things on as much as I can. Braking system, same thing. I'm going to go through, make sure, you know, all the metal lines are good. If they're not, they're getting replaced, and all the rubber lines are getting replaced. Everything's getting, you know, to the point where it's almost like new as much as possible. You will have much less breakdowns and problems, and much more time enjoying your van and driving it and getting more miles per gallon and all that kind of stuff, if you have that philosophy. So I guess that's it for the moment. I'm going to get this thing put back together and get it installed, and hopefully do the test one more time and not have any air leaks. So please like, share, and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It's actually helping us a lot. And we will see you guys in the next video.